Okay, so here's the deal, and I said this earlier, and I can't tell you how happy I am. One of the most significant achievements ever in the history of our missile defense operations has happened, and we're a big, big part of it. And I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. And years ago, when I hooked up with Riki Ellison, we used to just talk about football. And we still talk about football. We're not going to talk about our favorite team today because me and Chaz are sick. But we are going to talk about another team of ours, and that is the missile defense team. And joining us from our nation's capital is one of the happiest guys on the planet, Kia Ora, and good morning, Riki Ellison. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. What a phenomenal day that happened yesterday, right there in your state, with our sailors and our men and women from the Missile Defense Agency. Just historic that they were able to knock down an ICBM with the first ever on a Navy vessel in the history of the world with an SM-3 Block 2A interceptor.
Ain't that
changes the game. Changes the whole game. You're defended.
Hawaii's
defended.
That's exactly what I wrote down. Because see, we've been whining together a lot ever since the inception of this, because Barking Sands and Kauai has been such an integral and very important part of our missile defense for the whole world. And yet we were concerned that we weren't able to take care of ourselves here in Hawaii. We're taking care of everybody else, but what about stuff coming here? Well, I'm not going to say that it's completely impervious, but it's a heck of a step in that direction, isn't it? This is a very important part of history for us.
Not only it's for Hawaii, it's for the world.
Exactly.
I mean, it's for our country. What we did there with the John Penn, the ship that was out there, yesterday morning to fire that shot from an ICBM target from Kwajalein, the same targets that we shoot and take down from our GBIs at Vandenberg, the same target, and being able to engage on remote and use remote sensors to discriminate, track it, and then feed it to the ship, and the ship shooting that thing down, it's off your waters.
Yeah,
no, it's off your waters.
Yeah.
And so that means it can take an ICBM down from North Korea off your waters right now.
Okay,
right now, today.
Here is the thing that I think is the most incredible part of this. All of this technology has been knitted together. I mean, you can have something that works really well, but it may not work in conjunction with something else. Now, talk about how this was a joint effort between us and one of our fiercest enemies that we've ever had in World War II, the Japan. And look at the inter-country cooperation that's happened here.
That's huge. The weapon itself is co-developed and co-deployed by Japan. So Japan and the U.S. went together to develop this specific weapon. So that's the first ever to do that. That value of what we did with that weapon to shoot the ICBM also is going to play in Japan. Japan, they're building those with us. So they're going to go in, and that's going to provide Japan a much more greater defense than it's got today, and it can hit a much higher lofted launches that North Korea could do against them. So that's a win there, but it's also a win for everybody else that's got Aegis ships that we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Spain, Australia. I mean, so they can see that with their ship, they can defend and defend an ICBM attack on their nation. So that's impressive. What's even more impressive is now we have an ability to have an underlayer on the entire western United States.
Yeah,
having ships.
That's the one.
Having ships in Seattle and L.A. We have the ability for the first time in history to defend New York City.
Yeah, and
Washington D.C. on the coast of the East Coast from an Iranian threat. We can do that from the Gulf of Mexico for the southern United States. We can go into the Great Lakes and do it for the Midwestern United States. So we have a capability. Man, we're mobile global. We are mobile global. ICBM, we can knock it out of the park. So, we can go to Europe and help defend Europe from ICBM.
Hang on here just a
minute.
Get
me all excited.
Man. I was going
to
say, here is the most miserable I've ever heard Riki sounding. He's so despondent. I mean, let me tell you something else. And here's what we talked about when we first started doing this years and years ago, you and I, Riki, and that is some of these countries, they have to listen to common sense. A lot of these people were developing these weapon systems like North Korea and others at the expense of their economy and their people. And, but they're saying that we needed to do this to to make ourselves, a world leader that you all want us to be. Now that excuse is gone because every time they develop a new way to launch something, we've got them covered. It's just not going to come to us. That must mean that it's very, very frustrating for them to continue to pour their resources into technology that don't work anymore.
This is going to shut down North Korea right now. I mean, North Korea just showed us they got a MIRV ICBM.
I saw that
can hit the United States, right?
Yeah.
So, and we got a transition going on with our presidency. There's no question North Korea is going to do some testing
right now,
and taunting us is when that happens. But what we've done is we've just multiplied our capacity. We've got 4 ships right now in the Pacific that can shoot this. We've got an Aegis Ashore site in Hawaii that can shoot this. We've got 5 more ships sitting over in Atlantic, and we're building more ships to have this capability, unmanned capability. So we got this guy. We're going to have in-depth capability against North Korea and Iran on it.
And here's the thing. I get this feedback from listeners all the time, and that is making sure that people understand that this technology that we're using is not a weapon. It is a deterrent. In other words, all it's going to do is knock down the other guy. It's not sending a missile to somebody sending a missile towards us. These are not nuclear. These are just
they're not
projectiles.
Nuclear. They're kinetic. They're just running into the object at 16. Extreme speeds, and there's dust comes out of it because the impact is so great on a 6-foot object. So that's there. But let's get back to Hawaii, because now you don't have to rely on those 44 sitting in the U.S. homeland that are already wanted for the capitals and the bigger population centers of the United States. Now you got your own. Now you're set. You got your own capability now.
Here's
to
something.
defend yourself. I'm just telling you guys, it's a dream come true. Finally, we've had to fight like this, but MDA proved it by knocking this thing out yesterday morning.
Remember the discussions that we had in years past about how come we in Hawaii are relying on somebody in Alaska to take care of us? Alaska can take care of themselves, and they're right across the spit there from the former Soviet Union, right across the USSR, and then now we have our own capability. But the question is, a couple of these off the air already. What does it take now that we know that it works? Where are these things, and do they have to make more of them?
Well, we got to buy some more of them. We've bought these missiles are they're probably a quarter the cost. Again, cost efficiency than the GBIs. Mm-hmm. So they're probably around 25, 30 million. They're not the big price tag of these. So that's there. They're in the conference right now in the appropriations of Congress to look at funding more of these missiles. We've got the platforms and the processors to fire these. We don't have enough of the capacity yet to get enough in there, but certainly there are going to be ones. The first place they're going to go is Hawaii, and they've already got existing ones right now. Not too many, but we need to get more of these things right away.
That's another. Put them out. That's another thing, Riki. We got to explain to people that even the bad guys have a financial problem looking at this stuff, because when you see that big missile in North Korea during their big pomp and circumstances and their goose stepping and marching and all of this and showing this thing off, that's it. They have one. Maybe and.
Well, I wouldn't say that. They've got a couple more than one. They're not going to just do one.
What I'm getting at, though, is that these things are incredibly expensive. And, certainly if we have a few of these, how many do we need? Remember, we talked about this last year. Remember, we were talking about the number. I think it was somewhere between 8 and 10 that they could possibly amass. You can't just flip a switch and build them overnight. It takes a while to put these things together.
Right. But we've got 44 today that are deteriorating because they're getting older and they're not as reliable as they once were. And we have to wait 8 more years until we get the new generation. We're going to have a MIRV missile defense capability with multiple kill vehicles on. That does not come out to 2028.
Yikes.
So that's why this is so important to have an underlayer of ships in the Pacific that this is not their main mission, but if there is a crisis situation, they can be called back to defend the homeland. That's
the question.
And Hawaii. And Hawaii could obviously, as you know and I know, could put those missile interceptors right now in PRMF in the launch capability they got right now today. So that's there as well.
Yeah, when you talked about that underlayer that people don't understand, it's pretty historic, isn't it, this achievement? And potentially, from what I was reading, some materials your office sent me, this is a precedent for allies that gave the Aegis ships one of the most significant achievements. That was in the history of all of this stuff. Now, hasn't this been now overshadowed and said, yeah, as good as that is, look at this thing.
Yeah, and let's go back, because you talked about the integration of, what'd you say, knitting everything together. That was knitted together from the command and control in Colorado Springs that was able to leverage and put the command and control to use different remote sensors to track this ICBM and provide it to that shooter that was off the coast of Hawaii to shoot it down.
Amazing.
And that's called a command and control for the ballistic missile defense. That fits in with their command and control of the GBI. So this fits like hand in glove in with and under the bigger missiles. So this is a one integrated capability that was done by
over there in Colorado,
or MDA over in Colorado, that was able to direct it.
But isn't this amazing? I mean, if you talk about Thanksgiving, I wonder how quickly this went around your world. In other words, right after it happened, this must have just gone around the world like the shot heard around the world. I mean, wow, look at what we did. Dang, we are on it.
And what's so amazing about Mike is it's not waiting for a silver bullet or a golden egg.
Yeah.
It is current capability that we already have in the field. We don't have to wait for it. It's already deployed. The platforms are deployed. The missiles are deployed. It's just production now. So it is so great because now we can just buy more stuff, more of these interceptors, and we're ready to go.
What
it's
happens?
Not like you have to wait and develop and test and debate and wait, for an acquisition cycle to happen.
What about the ones that are sitting around? You're talking about this before that. Some of these they've just been laying around.
Here's what I think we've produced 60 of these.
60.
Congress has bought 60 of these since 2018, the last 3 years. Half of those go to Japan because Japan, a good portion of those, I don't want to say half, a good portion of those will go to Japan because they co-produced it. And then we had to fill the Aegis Ashore sites in Poland and Romania with that group, and we test them. So that's where those numbers, and that was over the last 3 years. So that we got to build that number, obviously, a lot.
Well, it looks like you talk about Thanksgiving. I would imagine, all this COVID stuff that we're worried about and how we have to take care of each other, man. We should talk about putting on some masks and be able to high five or elbow bump people going crazy here.
And it's remarkable because they did it in COVID.
Yeah.
MDA, they tested this stuff in one of the hardest environments the world's ever seen.
Yeah.
They were able to test it and develop it on time and quietly. And done it just perfectly. Because, it sends that message directly to North Korea, sends that message to Iran. So it is well done. Yes, Thanksgiving all around for this, especially Hawaii.
Yeah,
Hawaii is safer today than it's ever been.
Well, I was looking at a pile of stuff from yesterday and today. Most of what I have to bring to the audience is not really good news. I mean, we're struggling, but but this little uplifting thing means that's just one doggone less thing that we have to worry about. People are going to be coming to Hawaii that know about these things a lot more as soon as we can travel back together. Knowing that they're coming to a safe place in the United States is going to do wonders for our state, and we should all be thankful for that big time.
And it was tested there at PRMF under Senator Anaway. His vision has come true. You're the focal point for the world.
Feels pretty good. Yeah,
historic capability. It was done there. Yeah. It was done right there in your ocean in your state, and that's what's so cool about it, and it's going to get better and better.
Well, listen, yesterday afternoon I heard from our buddy Roy, and as soon as you get back here, we get the YIP put back together again. We got to have some serious get-togethers with Roy as everybody goes through this thing, and I certainly want to make sure, Riki, in case we don't have a chance before next week to talk about a happy Thanksgiving to you and your extended ohana, which is literally globally. Thanks so much, Riki.
Thank you, Mike. It was a great day. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm all right, my brother. There you go, Riki Ellison. If you want to know more, just Google missile defense, and it'll be the first thing that comes up. 6:51. I'm late for traffic. Here's Tyzo Braden. Aloha and good morning, Tyzo.